The hairband.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Rev Jamila Jamie,
And I'm Reverend Marianne, and
and
this
this
is
is
Sunday
Sunday
Morning
Morning
Grace.
Grace, Halloween edition.
Ooh. Well, welcome and hello.
Yeah.
Uh, the energy, Jamie and I were just talking before we started this, and the energy today is really intense. So if you're feeling a little off, know that it's not just you. We're all feeling it, or at least Jamie and I are feeling it,
We are feeling it. We're definitely feeling
and
it.
for no good reason. So just a little tidbit if you're not understanding why you may be feeling a little anxious or overwhelmed, or just not yourself, feeling like you're carrying a burden that you don't understand. Um, So before we finish up and wrap up our month on legends, the people who inspire us or those who inspire us, let's start with our opening blessing. And so I'll encourage you, as you're capable, as you're able, to just close your eyes and just try to put away whatever feelings you may have right now that may not be yours. And if they're not yours, ask the universe just to take them away. And if they are yours, ask the universe to lessen them, to lighten them, and to help you handle them. And just tuning in here this morning, and I'm hearing that we're in a really, really holy period of connection with those on the other side, because they're never really that far from us, that they walk with us, that they're with us, they're in our hearts always. But their physical presence is more known. You know, we're in this period of Halloween, or All Hallowed Eves. And in the Catholic tradition, tomorrow is All Saints' Day, and the second is All Souls' Day, where we remember those who have gone before us. And we also have the Day of the Dead tomorrow. And I know that there's lots of connection with those who have left this physical body, but who are with us in spirit and are always with us. So we just call upon all of them to let their presence be known, whatever help that they're offering from the other side. Feel their embrace, the ones that have gone that you really miss, the ones that have had something to teach you. Thank them for that. I'm hearing the veil is thinnest in this period. We can reach out and touch, not literally, but figuratively. And know that we always have source. We always have the divine at our beck and call for help. And I'm reminded, whatever you are carrying, whatever challenges, difficulties, upcoming heaviness that you may have, you're not alone. You've been given the gift of others on this earth plane to help you, but you also have the divine and the angels. You are not alone. And you've got this. Somebody needed to hear that. You've got this. And with that, take a deep breath in, let it out, and bring your awareness back to this time and this space, knowing that we are forever supported and loved. Blessed be.
Blessed be.
I felt like all these little energies coming in to join us today.
I love it. I love it. I was even thinking, just looking back, like, well, my cousin tagged me in a picture of me and my mom the other day.
Yeah.
And then in my memories yesterday was a picture, and it was actually another one. My cousin had like went through old pictures. I think it was like a year or two ago. It was in my memories of my mom, and it just made me giggle then. I was like, well, yeah, that makes perfect sense with the, honoring, those that passed and just the timing. So I was like, of course she, comes around. And my cousin, I love her, but she definitely loves her pictures of past. So it cracks me up that I'm like, of course mama would, go visit and pull up these pictures and everything like that, because like my cousin loves that. And I'm always like, you gotta come see me, but she's like, you're fine. She's like, you're good.
And it's reminding me that while I'm down here in my office, I have all my photo albums in my bookcase. And Krista was talking about a particular Halloween picture that she was remembering. And I want to go look and find that, because we were talking about the old days.
Mhm.
And not that Krista is that old, but when the Halloween costumes were those plastic
Oh yeah, the
that were
creepy
sharp,
ones.
they were that thin
Yeah.
plastic.
Yeah.
And she was, because I was saying today was going to be a fairly mild day, and the kids weren't going to have to be all bundled up. And she was remembering this particular costume because it was plastic, the dress.
Yes.
She was, I think, a queen, and
Oh, I love it.
the dress was kind of plastic, and she had a big bulky winter coat under it.
Oh my gosh. Oh my, so she
And
put it under it.
well,
Oh
if you
my,
put it over it, it covered the costume.
true,
And I
true.
remember when I was a kid, the same thing.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, honey, they had those when I was a kid too. Costumes have come a long way in the
Yes,
last 30
yes.
years, I'll tell you. And she was saying, Mom, that was the last Halloween before I was diabetic, because she was
Oh wow.
diagnosed with diabetes at age 5 on
Wow.
Halloween.
Wow.
And she was dressed
Wow.
as a clown.
Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. Yeah, those
Yeah, she
costumes
spent
were.
Halloween night in Children's Hospital in Boston. No, I'm sorry, in Mass General,
Oh
in the
wow.
children's ward.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
But I remember them pulling me aside because the staff were walking around and giving the kids candy, and they said, it's okay, we're going to give her some bubble gum, but it's sugar free. And it's like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
I hadn't begun to learn.
Right, right. So like she can have whatever she wants. Like, no, actually.
Yes, you can give her candy.
Oh
Meanwhile,
my gosh, that's so
she
funny.
had a blood sugar that was incompatible with life a couple of hours earlier, but
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
but I digress.
Oh, I love that though.
So, so who is your legend, or who do you draw your inspiration from?
It's my mama. Surprise. Yo, if you all knew my mama, you would understand why she's amazing. Like just as a person and a being, like I just consider myself so blessed that like of all the people in the world, only me and my sister are the people that can say like this woman was our mom. And because she was so charismatic and just I'm trying to even find the right words. She's so like strong and resilient and incredibly independent. I will say there are some things, that from the way she grew up that she passed on to me that I am working on being a little softer around. I mean, my mama's life advice to me was, honey, if you want something done, you better learn how to do it yourself because there ain't always going to be a man there to do it for you. Like that was mama, and she always found a way. Um, I held on to that very dearly, but now I work on allowing like my partner to be the man in the relationship, or when I was married, allowing my husband to be the man, like be the man and do the things because I went a little extreme with that. But my mom owned a restaurant. She was a waitress all of her life. And she did work for the post office, her last job, but she just she touched so many lives, you know, and I think it's a testament that, like, when we think of what is a legend, like, you know, some people may think of like presidents or, you know, spiritual figures or things like that. But what I love about my mama is she was just herself. And she, you know, to some people was just a waitress. And I'm not saying that I was a waitress. So I don't mean that to our service industry workers. I don't mean it in a belittling way, but some people see that as a, you know, they don't understand actually the work that it takes to and to make a career being a waitress or a server. But in that, my mama just got to be herself and she touched so many lives. She always had an encouraging word, but she would also have no problem calling you on your shiz. I will keep it clean. It's Sunday morning grace. But she had no problem, like, if you needed to be set straight or just, you know, told. I mean, she would do it in a loving way. And sometimes I would watch her. She had this magical way of kind of ripping people to their core, but she would stay with them and then she would sit there with them as they processed and looked at themselves and the choices they were making. And they usually weren't good ones, you know, is the whole reason these conversations came up, or they could be making better ones. And she would just sit there with them and, you know, watch them realize and see. And you know, it'd always be really cool to watch some of the people that came in and they were kind of at rock bottom, and then she would give them guidance and they would, you know, then we wouldn't see them for a while and we'd be like, man, you know, I wonder how they're doing. I hope so and so's okay. And you know, they would come back, a lot of them just, it was kind of the thing going on in the area that her restaurant was in, you know, would come back clean and unrecognizable at times, you know, because a lot of them had addiction issues. And it was just really, really, like, she wasn't just my mama, she was everybody's mama, but I'm one of the ones that had her by blood, you know. But to me, like, what a legend, what a testimony. And she's a living, like a living legend when she was alive. And you know, and since passed, because I did go back to waitressing when I first got divorced, and I would see some of her old regulars, you know, that were still around. And they, once they realized who I was, because my I worked with my cousin who recognized everyone, and I didn't quite recognize all of them, but she'd be like, you know, that's Norma's daughter. And they'd be like, oh my gosh. And literally, I had so many people that, like, I'd start to talk to them and they would just bust out in tears, just, you know, because they love mama, to the point that my boss was like, what's going on? Because I just noticed usually once a day, your customers are crying. I'm like, no, no. I was like, because they realize, you know, who I am, in the sense of who, you know, who was my mom, and they knew my mom. And mama, she transitioned in 2008. And, you know, that was more like 2018, 2019, pre-pandemic, you know, when everybody was still out and about. So, you know, it was just really cool to see that even 11 years later, like, you know, the impact that this woman has on people. And yeah, so she just totally is. And my legend and just who I look to for inspiration. I always see, like, my mom's almost who I role model to be as my character. I mean, I know I'm me, but there, you know, the qualities in her, you know, that help kind of keep me straight and keep me going. And I know I'll get a little mumble in my ear if I start to get off track. And I always say, you know, my son, he's my reason why, or my inspiration. I don't want to put the pressure on, you know, my son being my reason, but he's my inspiration as well. So, like, he inspires me, and then I, you know, to be the best me for him. But I choose to want to be the best me for him. You know, and my mama, watching her and essentially do the same thing for me and my sister, you know, even breaking, you know, generational curses and belief systems. And you know, my family has a history of, which, you know, many do, you know, they grew up in the depression and money and you know, a real even lack, you know, abundant story. And understandably, I mean, they literally went through the depression and their parents went through the depression. um so watching her start to break that cycle, and then for me to be able to come in and quote unquote follow her lead and, you know, break it completely, so that my son, and if generations to come, although right now he does not want children. That's okay. He's 17. I don't want him to want children. We don't want that
Not
right
yet.
now. Not yet.
Not
No,
yet.
I in the future that would be very nice, but I'm okay with that. But, but if there are grandchildren for me, like just, really breaking, breaking all those cycles that, and lack cycles, but, with her being really the pioneer of that. And I just, so I just really look up to her in the way that she modeled life, and just always a smile, always a laugh. Not that she didn't have moments, because she did. We all do. We're human. But, she just had this, like, she was like the balance of grit and grace. She really was. She was really just a beautiful balance of softness and compassion and doing what needed to be done, but always just kind and never judgmental, and she always told me, she's like, that could be you. She's like, we never know what life is going to bring us. So it's best to humble yourself. When I would, kind of, especially growing up and finding myself, and, at times I'm not proud of it at all, but for the sake of transparency, thinking maybe I was better then, or like, just, and went through my little snobby phase, and she would humble me real quick. And she's like, that could be you. She's like, you never know from one day to the next what life is going to bring you. She's like, so, just meet people with compassion and kindness, because that could be you.
Right.
You just never know, so just those humbling words. But yeah, she definitely my legend.
And last week, I talked about my dad.
Mhm.
This week, of course, it's my mom.
Mhm.
And I never realized how much I was like my mom. My life has followed a very similar path as far as the caregiver role. My mother was everybody's caregiver. She, in addition to being, my mom had a fun loving side, and she was great. She uh, did belly dancing for a while with the seniors, and she tap danced with the Seaside Tappers. And but before all of that, she got to enjoy living her life. She took care of my grandfather and her dad and her mom. And then she took care of my dad, in addition to being a mom of 5 kids. And there was a 13-year age difference between me and my baby brother. So she had a huge brood to take care of at different stages. We were all, you know, I was 13 when my youngest brother was born. So she always had a young child to take care of.
Yeah, what a nice surprise.
And
She had a
that's when she was taking
surprise.
care of my grandfather. And then after my grandfather passed, my grandmother, who was my grandfather's primary caregiver, she then had, and I'm thinking now, it's kind of like there is this pattern that
Mhm.
we have in our family. You get to enjoy your life after you've done the caregiving.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so then my mom went from taking care of my grandmother, and then my dad had back injuries, and he was disabled, and then he developed the heart issues. So my mom was constantly taking care of him. And then when he passed, then it took her about a year, and then she started getting it. She got involved with the senior center, and she went out and she found her own group of friends, and she traveled. And that's when she got involved with all of these activities. But she still always maintained that caregiver role, that kind, compassionate one. She was the one that drove friends to doctor's appointments, that went and sat in the corner of the room just to listen to the doctor. And her friends all trusted her to do this, to hear, because when you're going to the doctor and there's lots of things to discuss, it's sometimes helpful to have a second set of ears. It's like, no, this is what the doctor said. And my daughter wants me there for that very same purpose. It's like I'm her other set of ears. And especially if she's hearing something that's overwhelming, Krista can sometimes shut off, or she can get so focused on something that the doctor said 5 minutes ago that she's not focusing on what's being said now.
Yeah.
And so I see a lot of this pattern of my mom. But my mom was so super loving. and
Mhm.
so super intense that I feel like she was such a strong role model for me, because on those days that I just feel heavy and I feel everything right here, I just remember mom did this for so
Mhm.
long and mom
Yeah.
was able to do it. And I'm able to call upon her strength
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
to say, Mom, get me through this. Mom, help me. Mom, be here with me. And she just there's there was something about my mom that she was always steadfast, and she never you never yes, you saw the frailty in her when she was sad. Like when my dad passed, it was the first year was really, really rough.
Mhm.
But at the same time, she still continued to show up every day for her
Mhm.
kids and for her friends and for the people who needed her. My mom was
Mhm.
always able to take and put herself aside when she needed to show up for somebody
Mhm.
else.
Mhm.
And I don't aspire to follow the same path that she did, but I
Mhm.
certainly aspire to be strong
Mhm.
as she was.
Mhm.
And I miss her, but yet I feel her very, very strong. And she's kept very much alive in our family,
I
because
see her
even
back
the
there.
younger grandchildren, well, yeah, she's sitting right
Yeah,
here
she's right
talking
there.
to me.
Yeah, she's watching.
And dad's here too.
Hi, Dad. Yeah.
Um, but in addition, they, she just, I lost my train of thought, but she was just this beautiful soul. And when I tell you, people came out of the woodwork when she passed to honor her. And and the blessing in all of it was we also had thrown her an 80th birthday party 2 weeks before she passed.
Oh,
So she was
yeah,
able to really enjoy and celebrate
I love that.
turning 80, never not knowing, and it's a blessing that we don't know
Mhm.
in so
Mhm.
many ways. But people showed up to tell us how much she meant to them. People she met at the senior center, people she had met through different endeavors in her life, people who remembered her, a nurse that lived in town who had taken care of my dad in the hospital, whom my
Mhm.
mom would bump into from time to time, came to tell us how much she admired my mom.
Mhm.
So that's my legend. That's my
Mhm.
legend.
I love that. I
And
love
the one
that.
who inspires me. My two parents are definitely my strength and my pillars.
Yeah. Yeah. And Barb's watching, and she said that for her, her mom as well, and that so important to remember the resilience of our ancestors, the power we can tap into generally from all those who came before. And that's really helpful to her right now. And I definitely, kind of what you're saying. And I think me as well, we're like, we do want to break, patterns, but yet knowing that we do have the strength though, and whatever it may be, that we can also call in. And I think sometimes we can get so caught up in what we're gonna do, that like sometimes we forget that like it's okay to, to tap in, and they want us to, I feel, like, not, I don't want to say not for nothing, but struggling for the right words there, but to just like, even in a way of honoring them, like tapping into, and it could be a quality of certain, of our ancestors that, we remember, and just, honing in and tapping in, and calling them, and taking that. Especially now, we're in so much of an unknown,
Right.
so much of an unknown, to this day. And everybody says, about, oh, when it gets back to normal, and it's like it's not, and that's okay, because that normal wasn't working. It was comfortable and familiar, so it probably felt good, but in the big picture, that really wasn't working anymore. So in those moments that you may feel, that like you don't know where the strength is going to come from, where you just are scared, where you feel alone, where you just feel you may be needing something, looking to your legend, and tapping in and harnessing, what it is from them that inspires you that you may need to help you navigate these times.
Hmm. And we all have at least one. And
Mhm,
I venture to guess we all have several people that,
mhm,
if we think back on them and we look at the qualities, those are the
mhm,
qualities that we aspire to have.
mhm,
And there can be, I'm hearing, there can be legends whose lives we actually aspire to not be like, and we work very hard to avoid falling into some of the pitfalls
mhm,
that they have fallen
mhm.
into. And
Very
so
true.
again, they can be a legend
Mhm,
to show us the
mhm,
qualities that do not serve well, that do not, that,
mhm,
we may remember somebody for something that, they were, it, that they were always needy, that they could
mhm,
never stand on their own 2 feet.
mhm,
And how do we take that and turn that around, and then and
mhm,
help them at the same time, because
mhm,
we can help heal for them, for the people that
mhm,
are, looking to, how do you take what they endured, their perceived weaknesses, and make it a
mhm,
positive?
mhm. I
Um,
always celebrate my brother. He died of a heroin overdose, and I always am extra um like just celebratory when I see somebody get clean, and I always just say thank you because now I know it wasn't for nothing.
right.
Like my brother may not have, you know, have overcome his battle and had a different outcome, but I always just like thank them. So even in that, while it's somebody, that may have already passed and wasn't making those best decisions, and for many people, my brother's legacy will be that he was a heroin addict. And that it's just what it is. It's not offensive. It's truth. That it's what
Right.
his, adult life was. It's how he, left, but also in his legacy, his son will not make the same choices.
That's right.
People have gotten clean and sober because he was their friend and it hit that close to home.
That's right.
So there's like, so it, just in what you were saying, to emphasize that sometimes, and I come from a family that, a lot of my deceased family members, that's what they'll be known for is an addiction. But in that, I've always been incredibly mindful growing up not to experiment with certain things because of them and their choices and seeing and knowing. So while they're not great choices, they also may have prevented me from a same outcome or definitely not being in the space that I'm in right now. So again, it's also in that, like, the people that make the choices that may not seem very inspiring, yet still role model for us, even if it's behavior that we don't wish to repeat. Like, I know that's a cycle and a pattern I'm not repeating, you know.
Right.
And so even in that, like, it's not even for nothing. I think some people are like, oh, what a waste of life. And it's like, but was it? It may not be the ideal life that we wanted for them or we wish for them to experience, but yet even the people that show up, and this is the mission per se that they take on, how many lives are they still changing for the better and affecting for the better, because by being the role model of what we don't want.
Their life purpose and their reason for being here could have been to demonstrate the struggles
Mhm,
and the lifestyle that does not serve the general population well.
mhm, mhm,
So for that, we thank them and we honor them,
mhm.
because they took on a pretty heavy task when
Yeah.
they came into body.
Mhm, mhm.
So
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, that feels complete.
Mhm. And we're doing good. Just a side note for me and Marianne, we always run over, so we're actually at a good complete point, at a good time for us. Hey, we're good. Yeah.
Are we ready for tenants? And I
We
have
are.
my stone and my tenant for the week that I drew this morning. I am one with Mother Earth.
Um,
So
My
that
tenant
is
for the week is I live in partnership with my angels. I love that. I love
beautiful.
our stains, by the way.
Yes,
Yeah.
they are cool.
Can I tell you a funny story while you share your screen? Because, compassion comes up, and there are times that I admit, like, I can get so set in my ways, and I'm very protective of my family. And something upset me the other day, and I grabbed my rock just I just sometimes let them absorb, and I'm grabbing it. And I was like, man, I should just throw this thing. And I was like, look at your rock, look at your stone. And I looked, and it was like, I am compassionate in every moment. And I was like, oh. I was like, yeah, maybe I won't throw the compassion stone, but it was just so funny because I'm like, oh my gosh, I could just throw the stone at him. And then my angels are like, why don't you read your stone before you throw it, And I'm like, oh, yes,
Yep.
yes, I am. Thank you. But it's just so funny.
Yeah, and sometimes because mine is cold right now because I am down here in the lower level of the house, but the heat is not on yet. But they're just the right size to be very tactile, and it can kind of ground you. So I am one with Mother Earth. I am being grounded today by my stone. So whenever you are ready.
All right. So just asking everyone to just take a nice deep breath in. If it feels right for you, placing your hands over your heart. I'm guided to keep my hands over my stone in prayer. So, and just allow yourself to really take in these tenets and allow them to fill your being, your heart, your soul, your cells. I open my heart with deep gratitude and intend today to master my spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical energies. I am dedicated to my spiritual practice. I surrender to my soul's purpose through sacred prayer. I own my guidance.
I live in partnership with my angels. I serve with a loving heart. I am compassionate in every moment.
I trust it's all good. I allow immediate forgiveness. I honor my truth.
I listen to the spiritual messages within my physical body. I express myself creatively. I am one with Mother Earth. And so it is.
And so it is. And as we go forth into this beautiful time of year, this new week, this happy Halloween, happy Samhain, honoring our legends, living and transitioned, honoring our ancestors, we set forth with our prayer. And I don't have it in front of me. I'm being guided to freestyle it. So it may be a little different this week, but just asking that as we step forward in the week that we are allowed to see with God's eyes, to speak the love of God's mouth, to open our hearts and love with the love of God, to allow our hands to touch things with the gentleness and the compassion that God would. And as we step forward and move forward, with every step we take, may we do just that. Step and leave a legacy of love everywhere we go. Blessed be, and so it is.
Blessed be. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
So thank you for joining us. Reverend Alvia and Reverend Peter will have a special message for you next month as we begin the month of November and a new theme.
Already.
I encourage you, though, if you have a legend that you would like to honor and share and tell us how they inspire you, feel free to leave comments for us. We would love to hear and would love to know who inspires you.
Have a beautiful week, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.